Well, hello, everybody. This is Kathleen Gage, and I'm so excited with today's live stream. We've got Peter Goldstein, we've got Angela Crawford, and we've got Salish Rao. And two of them are doctors, Dr. Angela Crawford and Dr. Rao. And today we're going to talk about how to focus on positive messaging when you are inspiring people to try the plant-based lifestyle, the vegan lifestyle. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Peter, and he is going to share what his take is on positive messaging and some of the things that we have in the works. So I'm going to turn it over to Peter.
Well, thank you, Kathleen. And I'm Peter Goldstein, founder of We Did It Health. And the whole mission for us, we're doing something different from everybody else in the communities, in the whole food, plant-based, vegan, and climate healer communities, in that our focus is to help support you, the consumer, the grassroots ambassador, as we're all trying to inspire our friends and loved ones and acquaintances to look at changing their lifestyle. Because together, once we get better at doing that, I know that we will change the numbers, we will change the movements, we will grow the movements, we'll get a vegan world by 2026, as Dr. Rao here will talk about. That's his mission with Climate Healers. And I'm so honored to be coming up on our fourth event here, all of it based on Dr. Angela Crawford's ebook that is your free gift from us for participating in the survey, for joining our community. And then we have so much more exciting stuff coming up as we're rolling out our certification program, and we'll be doing it live in a live summit as well as virtually. Well, with that, I would like to introduce Dr. Angela Crawford, the author of our ebook, 7 Best Practices to Inspire Loved Ones to be Plant-Based. And Dr. Crawford has been a practicing psychologist for decades now, and writing her ebook and inspiring so many people to be happy vegans and to live fruitful, happy lives. So with that, Angela, please go ahead and tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you. So first of all, just really excited to be here. So grateful for this community that's building and bringing us together to inspire others to become plant-based and vegan. I'm a psychologist, and for many years have worked doing psychotherapy, individual group, mind-body therapies, different things to help people to live happier, healthier lives in general. Then 15 years ago, something awoke in me to become first vegetarian. I learned about the conditions for workers in meat processing plants, and since I was working a lot with injured workers at the time, it really opened my eyes to know that some people work in really terrible conditions. And it made me think more about how my food got to me, which then led to me learning about the animals. And once I really took in what factory farming was and what animal agriculture did to animals and the environment, and then eventually I learned about the health part too, I just knew that I couldn't eat meat anymore, and really became passionate about it, learned everything I could, read every book I could. Later, further into my journey, realized I really needed to become fully vegan to fully live the compassion that I felt in me. And it wasn't fully easy for me. So I have some empathy for people that have some struggles on this journey. And since becoming vegan, I really wanted to devote my career as a psychologist to helping people move towards a plant-based vegan lifestyle and overcome the barriers. So I've gone through the Main Street Vegan Academy training and other trainings, along with my psychology background, to really help with this movement. So I'm really happy to be here, and looking forward to our conversation today. Thank you. You're muted, Peter.
Okay, that's better. So thank you for that, Angela, and we'll come back to you in a little bit to hear about the 6th and 7th principle in the 7 best practices. And now it's absolutely my honor and privilege to introduce to you Dr. Salish Rao. And I know that for so many of you, he needs no introduction. He's doing such amazing work with climate healing, with bringing everybody's awareness to taking care of our planet, to reversing climate change. And he has a mission, vegan by 2026, for so many good reasons that we need to have that for the planet. So with that, Dr. Salish Rao, please introduce yourself and tell us and our audience a little bit more about you and your work.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Thank you for hosting this and having me on it. I am a systems engineer by training. I used to work on the internet back in the 90s. And then I saw Al Gore's presentation on TV and I was so shocked. I said, if half of what he's saying is true, I'm wasting my time. So I decided to look into it and I realized it is actually far worse. And so that's when I quit my engineering career and started working on the environment full time. And that was in 2006. And then by 2008, I became vegan for the environment because there was no question in my mind that we have to do this. So we are now, Climate Healers was started in 2007. It's 15 years of work and nothing has changed, in terms of my conviction. This has to be a vegan world as quickly as possible. And it's something that nature has been sending us signals that we need to do this. And we know that when we go vegan, we heal ourselves with a whole food plant-based diet. And at the same time, as we heal ourselves, we heal the planet. So it's something that we are called to do as a generation. And I feel fortunate that we are here at this time in human history to be able to do this and leave a lasting legacy for our children and grandchildren. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, and thank you for being with us. And I look forward to hearing from you some of your strategies and success stories in helping somebody else who isn't vegan to look at and be curious and make a commitment to change their lifestyle to one that is vegan and plant-based.
And Peter, I'd like to add something very quickly,
please.
If I may. I want to remind people to go ahead and fill out our survey. If you are plant-based and you've had benefit from that, please complete our one-question survey. There's a stream going across the bottom of the screen, and you can just input that URL. And I also want to remind people to go ahead and ask your questions because we will open it up to Q&A. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Peter.
Well, thank you, Kathleen. And yes, please, if you haven't filled out the survey yet, it's a simple one-question survey. Please do so, and please share it. Our goal, our mission is, we're calling it the Million Healthy Lives Survey Scoreboard because we're looking to show the world the impact a million plant-based people have on the environment, on health, and on animal justice. So with that, to help you be an even more successful ambassador, I'd like to turn it back over to Angela. And Angela, please tell us a little more about the 6th and 7th best practices in the ebook.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. And yes, as Kathleen reminded you, please, if you have questions or comments during either my presentation or Dr. Rao's, please put them in the chat or the comment section, and we'll get to those later in our time together. So first principle, it's the 6th principle in the ebook, is supporting our loved ones or others with positive messages and encouragement. When we first become plant-based or vegan, often it's easy to be impatient and want others to get it like we got it, and in the same way that we got it. Even if it took us a long time, I know for me, once I became vegetarian and then vegan, I just felt like, why don't other people see what I see? And you share what you know, and it still doesn't lead to change. And it's very both frustrating, discouraging, and sometimes demoralizing, especially if people also give us a hard time for being plant-based or vegan, or, kind of ridicule or don't understand our choices. So just reminding you just to be patient, and we'll get into the patient part in a moment, but we'll start with positivity first. think about, any behavior change you've made. Most of us don't change because someone told us to, or because someone criticized us, or guilted us, or shamed us. So thinking about how do we encourage other people? Most people change, first of all, when it really becomes their own idea. Something might lead to them awakening to the idea, information, their own life circumstances, someone else's healing, but they have to connect with their own reasons for change. So as you're thinking of people in your life that you want to inspire, a first start is being aware of your intentions before any communication that you'd have about this. You actually start with, what do I want for this relationship, for this other person, for this conversation, and really starting from a place of communicating with that intention in mind. Do I want there to be, healing change for this person? Do I want us to open up communications so that they become more open to this message? What is it that I'm trying to accomplish here? And you'll also keep in mind, things we've talked about in earlier conversations. Where are they at in their openness to change? You'll guide what you say based on how open and receptive they are. And just remembering, advice and information don't tend to work well if unsolicited. So you might ask questions, are they open to receiving information? They might express a concern or, something they're dealing with health-wise, and you might say, hey, I have some great information about that. Could I share it with you? Give them time to think about it and be open to it. I'd also add that often the dinner table is not the best time to have these conversations about veganism. Not to say it could never be, but a lot of times if someone's in the middle of eating something that is not vegan, it may not be the time to launch into everything about animal agriculture, that sort of thing. Finding times where the person is receptive and open. And also just encouraging anything they are doing in that direction. Suppose they start eating more plants, but they're not fully vegan. Encourage that, support that. So that's first, I guess, the supporting them with positive messages and encouragement. And then the final principle, practice number 7, is being patient and keeping the faith. It's so important for us to remember that everyone has their own process of change, and that for many of us, it is a journey, and there were many seeds planted that led to the change. I know for me personally, I at one time could not imagine being vegetarian. I didn't know what a vegetarian or a vegan ate. I had enough trouble with healthy eating in general that I couldn't imagine what a plant-based diet would look like. What opened my mind to receiving the message was I ate somewhere at a retreat center that had vegetarian and vegan meals, and that really opened my eyes to that this is possible. So then when I saw the program about the workers in the meat processing plant, I was much more open because I knew, like, okay, this is something I could do. So think about your own journey and all the seeds that were planted that led the way to you becoming plant-based. And kind of have that patience for other people, that you might share a message and you may not be the one that leads to their change, but perhaps you lay the foundation and maybe other seeds that are planted lead them further on the journey. And through all this, just keep sharing your great food. Keep the communication open. Don't shut it down just because someone doesn't change right away. Keep the communication and the connection open, because there may come a time where they are more open, and you want to keep that relationship open if possible to allow that to happen. And keep your own journey strong so that you're not too discouraged or disappointed when those around you do not immediately adopt a plant-based lifestyle. Keep holding your vision for that healthier world. Stay connected to your why, because realizing that with each person who awakens, we're creating that world we want to see, that's healthy, flourishing, sustainable, compassionate. So I will close with that for now and allow us to move to the next stage in our talk here today, but thank you.
Angela, I really liked what you said about not bringing it up at the dinner table if somebody has a carnivore diet. And we did have a comment from somebody saying, what about role playing? And I would like to, at the end or now, it depends when you would like to have the question, but give you some scenarios and how would we handle those situations. So we could wait until the next level, but there's some very important scenarios that most vegans run into, or plant-based eaters, and we don't always know how to handle it with grace. We get upset, or I know that I've judged, and it's like, well, don't you know? And no, they might not know. So with that, Peter, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Kathleen. Yeah, that's wonderful, and I would like to also add that Patty Flowers and anybody else, the role playing is great, and that's part of our mission with the certification program that we'll tell you more about, and our event on June 23rd. We will get a chance to have workshops and to role play and hear so much more in depth. And actually, Dr. Rao will be one of our speakers, as will Angela. So with that, I'd love to hear from you, Dr. Rao. Salish, tell us some of your experiences around these processes. How have you been most successful at on a one-to-one level? I know you do so many amazing things at a high level. I know you've spoken to the United Nations and have appeared in so many important places. And I know you've produced wonderful documentaries like Cowspiracy. And what are some of the strategies that have worked for you along these points? So please go ahead.
Yeah, at the individual level, it's all about storytelling. We have all the facts on our side, so we know that literally our house is on fire. Our planet is on fire. And when our planet is on fire, we need to be putting the fire out. And the easiest way to put the fire out is to heal ourselves first. So everything is pointing to this being a moment of tremendous transformation in human history. And it's now basing that on a personal story and the why of it. That's the most important thing I found to inspire people. So why are we in this situation? Why are we doing this? It's something that it took me a while to understand. So I tell my story. And my story is that, back in 2009, I was one of the most depressed environmentalists on the planet, because I thought there's nothing I could do, that we are just swirling down the toilet bowl and we're going to disappear as a species. And so this was in a sanctuary, the Western Ghats of India, that I had this thought. And there was nothing, it was an amazing sanctuary. So there was nothing about the sanctuary that made me feel that way. It's what was going on in that sanctuary. See, that sanctuary used to be a coffee plantation 20 years ago. And it was bought by a couple from New Jersey who tore down the fences and gave it back to the animals. And the animals came and regenerated the forest by just dropping seeds, and new trees were born. And pretty soon the coffee plantation was overwhelmed with the wild wilderness that was growing around it. And so I was at that sanctuary and I had this feeling of perfection. Everything fits beautifully in that sanctuary. Everything, every animal, every insect belongs exactly as they are. And I was observing an elephant breaking branches of trees. And at first I thought the elephant was destroying the trees and destroying the sanctuary. And so I asked Pamela, the owner, isn't that elephant destroying your sanctuary? And she said, no. Wherever the elephant broke branches of trees, that's where the sunlight streams to nourish the underbrush. And the elephant stops at the right time and goes on to do other things. Because if the elephant had continued destroying that sanctuary in the same way for a week, she could have destroyed it completely. But she doesn't. She stops at some point and moves on to other things. So then I asked her, so what else did you have to do to make this sanctuary happen? And she said, we had to patrol the land and make sure that no human being comes inside. So at that point, I felt like I was, the only species that doesn't belong. I don't even belong in my own home because I was born in that forest. So I was very depressed. And then a year later, my granddaughter was born. And my granddaughter is half South Asian, 1/4 African American, and 1/4 Native American, American Indian. So when I held her for the first time in my arms, I had a feeling that I was holding all of humanity in my arms because I saw all continents in her. And then she looked up at me and she smiled, and she had this kind of knowing smile, just a 1-month-old child, right? With a knowing smile, as if she was saying, "What do you mean I don't belong? I belong exactly as I am, and you haven't understood me." So that started me on a journey of understanding as to what were we doing? What are you doing as a species? What is our role in the ecosystems of the planet? Why are we here? And then, it took a few years to understand this, going through the science, but it was staring at me in the face all along. I just didn't see it. And the story is that as soon as we admit that we are changing the climate of the planet, that we are causing all this destruction on the planet, we automatically have the responsibility to maintain that climate, to maintain the ecosystems of the planet. We are the caretakers of the planet. Okay, this is something that we have been told all along as well, and this is our role. So what did we do in the last 10,000 years? We actually kept the temperature constant for 10,000 years until the Industrial Revolution began. So we prevented the Earth from going back to another ice age. So nature was using us to prevent ice ages from happening. And at first, we did it unknowingly. And now, over the last 200 years, we have built all the tools and technologies we need to become aware of our role and to then fulfill our responsibilities as a species that is part of the ecosystems of the planet. We have always been a part of nature. We always will be a part of nature. And we are now coming into awareness that our role is to be the climate regulating, climate harmonizing, caretaker species of the planet. So that to me is the greatest transformation in human history that's happening right now. And we are so fortunate to be alive at this time to make this transformation happen. So that's the story I tell. And that puts a larger framework into why we are here. And it tends to inspire people because they know that they belong. And then I say, we have to change our education system so that we teach our children how to become climate healers, how to become climate harmonizing species of the planet. And that begins with healing ourselves. Nature is a self-healing system. It's one of the most amazing system designs that I've ever seen. Okay? Self-healing system that fixes itself. Just like our bodies, as soon as we start eating right, fixes itself. All of the earth will fix itself when each one of us heal ourselves. And so it's now creating a system in which we become conscious as our climate regulating species, a climate harmonizing species, and we have to change everything though. So it starts with our diet, and then it starts with how we relate to each other, how we relate to animals. So we have to create a system of normal non-violence, as opposed to a system of normalized violence that we are in now. And that is a completely different way of organizing ourselves. And to me, this is one of the most creative periods in human history, that we need to be engaging everyone to think about what their role, how are they going to contribute to this. Each one of us is coming in with our gifts, right? Dr. Crawford is coming in with her gifts. So it's about understanding the why, and then having the faith that nature is a self-healing system and she knows what she's doing. So with that, thank you so much for this opportunity.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Rao. We've got some great questions coming in, and I'd like to pose this question to the group, and any one of you can take it. But this comes from Stacy Anderson, She writes, my elderly mom vehemently believes that she gets sick and weak if she does not drink milk and is quite angry about my activism in encouraging dairy operations to transition to plant-based. I have dealt with this so far by falling silent. There is no room in her mind for the notion that dairy is harmful. How would you recommend handling this? But she has a follow-up to this. She says, we are Native American. There's a higher incident of lactose intolerance, and mom has chronic IBS, which she will never consider as a result of dairy consumption. Who would like to take that question? Angela?
Yeah, that's that's really hard. And I think our family members can be the hardest sometimes. I know, I had family members who passed away from heart disease. I gave the Dean Ornish cookbook, but I don't think it led to any change. So it is really hard with family because sometimes we're the last ones that they will listen to or believe if they're really fixed on a certain truth that they believe in. So sometimes realizing it may not be for you to be the one to change her, even though you would like to. You could express it from a place of real compassion, if she's at all open, just sharing, I'm really concerned about you. I've learned this. I know at one time I thought the same thing you did about milk. Share your own journey with that rather than sort of you have all the answers now. Rather share it from, I believed that too at one time because that's what we're taught. But then I learned, whatever information you think would be helpful that might speak to her, sharing it from a compassionate place, but then backing off if she's not open, because then you have to step back. It may be some other information that comes to her that's not from you, that then your seeds planted, start to take root. So that would be my encouragement with that. And then keep doing what you feel is right, but keep coming from that place of compassion and heart, that you're doing what you know to be the right thing for yourself, for the planet, for animals. Yeah. I don't know if anybody has anything to add to that.
Well, that is such a great answer. And I would encourage people to go ahead and fill out the one question survey. When you fill it out, you'll get the ebook that Dr. Crawford wrote. It's an excellent resource on how to communicate with loved ones and inspire others to a healthier way of living, which is a plant-based diet void of all animal and dairy. And just last night, I saw something on the news about the whole baby formula shortage right now. And this one woman said, I thought, okay, I don't have baby formula. I'm going to feed my baby milk. And they showed a picture of the baby. It was horrendous. There were hives and red spots, and they were close to putting the baby in the hospital from lactose intolerance. So those are real stories. And if your family is open to it, there are podcast shows you can listen to where there are real life situations, people that have reversed massive diseases. Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, he was diabetic, he was overweight, he was ready to probably have his feet amputated, he was going blind, and in a matter of 3 weeks of going plant-based, void of all animal and dairy, he completely reversed. It was the start of the reversal, and now he's the epitome of health. So I would encourage you to look for podcast shows that are plant-based and vegan. Get some episodes if your mother is open to it. What the Health. And one of the things I love about We Did It Health is that we are going to be providing resources like that you can share with your family. We're building the resource section out right now, and we'll have plenty of resources that you can share with family. So again, please get the one question survey and take it, and then get the free ebook. And Peter or Dr. Rao, do you have comments you would like to add to that?
Well, I would like to add, Stacy. Part of our work is to find a way to not get frustrated ourselves, and it's as hard as it is. Patience and just surrender to the fact that you're doing all you can, and to appreciate that you're doing all you can, and sometimes, and way too often, people just aren't ready to hear it. So and at times like that, the more we push, the more we push them back, or the more we keep telling them. That's what I'm noticing anyways, because I have the same thing with my family, and I have stopped pushing because I know that anytime I say anything else, they just move back and they just move away from the goal of really changing their lifestyle. So really what we need to do is be patient, and I believe, and then look for those cracks, look for those opportunities where they may say, so be really sensitive to it, and you'll hear it. We hear it when somebody's finally ready to hear something. Let's be ready with the best things to say to them. So let's be patient. Let's wait for that crack, for that opening, and then when that comes up, let's plant more seeds and plant the seeds and wait for them to germinate and to grow. And and again, Stacy, it's the big thing is about how you're feeling and your frustration. And if 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 she's not listening and she's not doing anything, your frustration doesn't help anybody, and certainly takes away from your calmness and puts stress on you.
Thank you, Peter. That was an excellent answer. And Angela, thank you. And Dr. Rao, did you want to add into that?
Yeah, I would say telling your story is never something that she can object to. So I start with telling my story, and stick to my story. So this way, there is nothing that can be offensive to anyone, because it's your story. It's yours. And in my case, drinking milk was the cause of my arthritis. Because how do I know that? As soon as I stopped drinking milk, within 30 days, I had no more pains in any of my joints. And so it was the cause of my inflammation. And that she cannot object to. So if you tell your story, she cannot object to that. And then she has to think about it herself. So ultimately, everyone changes on their own. And the best we can do is to help them find their own reason.
Yes.
And
Yes.
living as an example. And go ahead, Angela, and then we have another question from a
Sure.
Facebook user.
Okay, sure. And I think, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but Shanasi, sharing, about asking questions. I think that is also a helpful approach too, where we're trying to understand more where they're coming from. Like, oh, so you think you need milk. What have you found helpful about milk? What does it bring for you? Just asking questions so that you understand more where their thinking is coming from and they feel heard. Sometimes that can lead to more open conversation that can lead to change. Sometimes it's hard to be patient with that. I know that I haven't always found that an easy thing to do, but it's an area where I'm learning and growing too.
Okay, and the next question is, thank you all for that. That was very informative. And I know it can be very frustrating because it's like we feel and we have found the holy grail of eating, which is void of animal and dairy, but not everybody is coming at the same pace. So compassion really works well. We have compassion for the animals and the earth. Let's have compassion for our loved ones. This next question comes from a Facebook user, and I'll open it up to the esteemed panel here. Do you feel different approaches will work better for different people? Some want studies, some respond to compassion, some environment, some social, religious, cultural, depending on gender, education levels, income levels, etc. Great question. Who would like to take that question?
I'll start. Definitely the approach is different for different people. And one of the earlier principles was, target your approach to their interests, their concerns, and also their level of change and readiness to hear things. So us becoming curious, what interests them? What is their concern? Because the message will relate much more if we know what they care about. If they are an animal lover, they may be much more open to certain messages about animals. If they're struggling with health issues, that might be the area where we reach them. And that's also where the We Did It scoreboard can be helpful, because as more and more people complete the survey, there's all these testimonials and numbers that show like, wow, someone with your same diagnosis, many people with your same diagnosis have healed or gone into remission or reversed these diseases. So there are these resources to help inspire them. So yes, definitely targeting it to all of that. And I want to add in, this certification program that we will be offering in the near future will really help with how do we do that better? How do we target our message to the person and their needs, their interests, their learning style, all of that. So I'll see if anybody else wants to add anything.
And I put the link for the certification down below. It's wediditsummit.com, wediditsummit.com. We have a waiting list, and next week we'll be putting out the full information. It's an amazing, amazing certification program, and you can watch from anywhere in the world. We will have more details coming, but it's virtual as well as in person, and we know that most people will be doing it virtually. So I encourage you to get on the wait list. And Peter, would you like to address the question of different communication with different needs?
I'm muted. I'm unmuted. Okay, thank you. Yes, so that actually is at the very foundation of our mission. So recognizing the different ways that people hear, that people learn, all of that, all aspects, all levels. So our whole mission is to find best practices, to start learning the skills that we can have to be more effective. So yes, recognizing different learning styles, recognizing different interests. So if you're talking to somebody who maybe likes sports, you may want to tell them about the game changers. So really, it all comes down. All our work is focused on how do we get better and more effective at inspiring somebody else, and that involves the full range of psychology, of interpersonal communication, of leadership, and sometimes even sales. So that hits right to the mission. So please, we're in process of figuring out, we're looking at new territory in all three communities, the climate community, the vegan community, the health community, all three plant-based communities. We need to find better ways to change the numbers to get traction for these movements, and this is our way of doing it. So I'm so glad that everybody's here with us at this point, and we're starting something that's so important to figure out the best practices, to figure out how to talk differently to different people, how to identify, how to look for those cracks where they might hear us. So addressing their needs, their concerns individually. And then, of course, the other part of what we're doing, as Kathleen had mentioned, we're building the resources. So there's two components, one being communication skills, understanding the psychology, the communication, and of course, the other one being having the best, most appropriate content ready at your fingertips, at our fingertips, to be able to inspire somebody else to change. And I know that once we get this down, once we get a handle on this, once we get this to lots of people, more people, and everybody who's plant-based practicing this, we will get our vegan world by 2026. And we will be healthy, happy vegans, and everybody will have a much better quality of life. So thank you for that, everybody. And Dr. Rao, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to say that, there are, just like there are the 12 zodiac signs, there are lots of different personalities of people, right? So each person changes based on, whatever is triggers them to change, because change happens within each and every one of us, not from the outside. It's all internal. And so I found that the movie, The 12 Angry Men, and it's 12 jurors who represented to me the 12 zodiac signs pretty much, and how each one changed their minds was very instructive. So looking at it from that perspective to understand what made each person change their mind. And so I think something similar is going on here in our movement as well, because we all know we need to get there. It's just figuring out how to get every one of us to come along on this path. I say that it's like, it's the equivalent of our house being on fire and someone is running around with a bucket of water, throwing water on the fire. And there are other people sitting around on the sofa, doing their thing. And we are trying to get them to wake up and realize that it's our common home that's on fire. And each person is going to wake up at their own time and come and join with putting out the fire and rebuilding our home. So that's the way I see it. Thank you.
That's amazing, and thank you. And we're getting some nice feedback from people on Shanasi. She writes, "You guys are doing such a phenomenal job of what you are doing. So glad to be learning about what you are doing and how you are doing it." And here's the thing: this is a community. It's not one group of people doing this. We're inviting people into the community to help us share the message, because the more we unite and collaborate and not have divides within the vegan and the plant-based movement, but really come together as a unit, the more power that we're going to have in inspiring others to make that change. Because as we look at everything going on right now, it's very evident that the climate is in major crisis. It's apparent that people's health is in major crisis. It's apparent that the animals are suffering needlessly. And so we encourage you, wherever you're coming in from, please join our community. And the best way to do that is to take the survey. And the survey is at wedidit.health. I'll put that back up. And you'll get the book from Dr. Crawford, and you'll get some messages on how you can get further involved, because each one of us in our own way, whether it's talking to a neighbor, whether it's talking to a loved one, whether it's speaking to a group of people, we all contribute in our own way, whether it's doing what we're doing today. So please take the survey, get the ebook, and please share the survey with your friends. Send them the link and invite them to take the survey, invite them to get on the wait list for the conference. So with that, I'll open it up to our esteemed panel and comments from people.
One thing I wanted to mention is I know there was a question earlier about role playing, and that is one thing the summit or the certification program will be really great for, where we can actually look at scenarios that people face and how you can practice approaching those, because they can be so different depending on what it is you're dealing with, what kind of scenario. And so that will allow us more time, because we're going to have a full program that will involve some experiential practice time. So just want to let you know, we will be providing support in how to role play and practice approaching some of the situations we face as vegans and plant-based eaters. So I hope you'll join us at the summit.
Absolutely. And let me add to that is with the summit and the certification training, we're also launching our membership community. And with our community, that's the role playing thing is very much at the heart of it. So the vision is that we'll have groups going eventually just all the time, and so that we can role play and support each other. But even more than that, we can have a real-time opportunity. So imagine the scenario, I think of it at times, is imagine I've just run into an old friend who says, I'm scheduled for bypass surgery in 3 weeks. And I panic, like, how can I get him to bypass the bypass surgery and change their lifestyle and be happier and healthier and stronger than they could ever be with bypass surgeries and all the medications. So I have a support group. I can come to our group, I can come to our community and brainstorm and role play and learn the best strategies. And then I can be fully confident and fully armed and have a really great shot at inspiring somebody I really care about to take the better path, the path that will serve his health and of course for animal justice and for the climate as just byproducts. But here he is ready to go into surgery. I really want to prevent that, so I can have that kind of support, and those are the things that our community will be for. So learning, role playing, studying, exchanging ideas, hearing great experts talking from different aspects, and having that real time support.
That is, I'm so excited about what's coming. I wish, it's like I know some of the behind the scenes stuff, and all of you are going to be amazed. I can't tell you how exciting this is, what's being rolled out. And it starts with the certification. First, it starts with the one question survey, the 7 steps book, then the certification, and it gets better and better and better. It's so exciting. We have some amazing people involved in this whole process. And Angela Fischetti has a great, great insight, and she is such a great ambassador for the plant-based movement. She says, I think suggesting certain documentaries to others based on their interests is helpful. Based on my profession, when I encounter others in the fitness and wellness community, I suggest the Game Changers. Great point, Angela, because what might resonate with one person will not at all resonate with somebody else. If somebody is, let's say they're into bodybuilding and they're convinced that they have to eat that animal-based protein, and you can show them the Game Changers to say, hey, there are professional bodybuilders that are actually thriving with a plant-based diet. If it's about health, the What the Health movie. If it's about the environment, Dr. Rao, what documentary would you recommend for the environment?
Cowspiracy.
Cowspiracy. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And Shanase says role playing would be very, very useful. I'm going to put this one out to the panel, and I'll start a little role playing here. I have a situation where I belong to a professional group, and they all know that I'm vegan. They all know that I don't eat any meat, any animal products, any dairy, and they've been very, very respectful. Recently, we were in a conversation. There was a whole group of us, and they started talking about hot dogs and hamburgers, and they, how tasty they were. And my heart started hurting, and I want to talk to them, but I didn't want to judge them. I didn't want to point fingers, but I really feel I need to talk to them. I don't know exactly how to approach it. And these are very dear friends of mine who have a lot of respect for the choices that I've made. What would you all recommend?
So I can start. I can tell you that I would express my feelings, because no one can argue that your feelings are your feelings, right? This is how you feel. You can say that I feel like my friends are being abused, and that would make them stop and think about what they're saying, and they cannot argue with you because that's how you feel.
Excellent. Thank you. And Peter or Dr. Crawford, would you like to address that?
Well, first of all, speaking of personality types, I've mentioned before, I'm an introvert, and sometimes those larger situations are harder for me to speak up in. But I might, for me personally, talk to some of them individually that for me would be more comfortable to share. I don't know if you're aware that I'm vegan, and these are the reasons I became vegan, and not telling you what to do, but this is really hard for me to be around this, and maybe coming up either, again, thinking about what is your intention, because sometimes our intention is for an environment that supports us so that we're not exposed to things that are really painful for us to be exposed to, or maybe we're just wanting people to be more supportive of our lifestyle. Other times we're really hoping that we can also transform them, and so just being aware of what is my intention here, what am I wanting to communicate, and what am I hoping to get from this conversation. That would be a first thing to guide how you then approached it. But I agree with Dr. Rao that whatever you do share, coming from your own journey, your own feelings, and your own wishes is a good starting point, that you're not attacking, and they might be more open to understanding where you're coming from.
Excellent. Thank you. And Dr. Rao, do you have some recommendations?
Well, I'm going to say that I have faith. So I tell people, please keep the faith. Just like the elephant stopped tearing down branches at some point and moved on, we are going to change. We are going to transform, because this signal from nature that we're getting is a signal that every animal gets. And so we are all part of this amazing system, self-healing system. And so this is going to happen.
Absolutely. Well, we're just about at the end of our time. And Peter, I know you have some final thoughts. And if any of our other esteemed panel would like to share your final thoughts.
Well, yeah. Well, thank you everybody for being here. Looking at the comments and seeing all the wonderful people who are here, and I met most of you. I've had the honor and pleasure of having conversations with most of you, and I am just so honored and so glad that you're all here with us, and so excited for the future and for all the things that are coming. We're working really hard to get the certification program and event and summit going, and hope you'll join us, and please help spread the word, and let's build this community to be all encompassing and to have everybody here. And I know that we're offering and exploring, and really part of it is that we're looking for the answers. We don't, obviously none of us have it, but together we're finding the answers, and together we're going to be creating a vegan world much faster and powerfully. So let's have happy, healthy vegans, and for the planet, for everybody to benefit, everybody all around. So with that, thank you everybody so very much for being here. And I am so honored to have Dr. Ra with us and all the beautiful work he's doing. And of course, Angela, Dr. Crawford, we so appreciate all that you've been doing as part of this effort, and look forward to so much more with you. So with that, I'm complete, and I just, I've learned this from somebody in Dr. Rao's Climate Healers, the secret handshake for vegans, and I share this every chance I get, and it seems like just about everybody loves it. It's Namaste Vegan.
Namaste Vegan. And I want to remind people, please put June 23rd on your calendar. You will be able to join us virtually, and you'll have the replays after the fact. Actually, it will be part of the certification. So put June 23rd on your calendar. You'll be receiving more information. And I want to thank all of our esteemed panelists, and I want to thank our guests who were listening in and leaving comments and asking questions. Together we can do this. Peter, I adore you. I love you. I love your vision. I love your mind that never stops in creating ways and ideas of how we can reach more people with the plant-based vegan movement, because it's about our climate, it's about our animals, and it's about our health. As happy, healthy vegans, we can do more to change the world than if we are in the hospital thinking about changing. So please, do yourself a favor, join in on the certification, and thank you all very much. And with that, we are done. Have a great day.